All righty. Are we excited? All right. Well, I hope so because I'm doing something today. We're going to change gears. Ready for that? We're switching gears. All right. Turn with me to Matthew chapter 10, verses 1 through 25. I'm going to read the whole thing for you, and then the reality is we're only going to cover just a small portion of it today, and we'll probably be looking at it more over the weeks to come. It's funny that um, when I started preaching, I insisted I would never do series. I hated them. I didn't like to listen to them, and I didn't want to preach them. And it seems like the last 2.5, 3 years, that's all I've been allowed to do. So I guess I'm getting over it, right? Because, well, the reality is I didn't like them because it made me pay attention week to week. But the reality is we need to pay attention week to week, don't we? We need to be aware of what God is driving home with us. So we've been talking about weapons of war and how prayer and our aspect of our lives and how we use and participate with those together. One of the things we've talked about was the fact that we have to be relying on each other, right? Trusting each other, trusting God in those things. But something I'm realizing is we also have to know what it looks like to participate, right? So Matthew chapter 10, verses 1 through 25 says this. Jesus called his 12 disciples to him and gave them authority to drive out impure spirits, to heal every disease and sickness. These are the names of the 12 apostles. First Simon, who is called Peter, his brother Andrew, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John, Philip, Bartholomew, Thomas, Matthew the tax collector, James, son of Alphaeus, and Thaddeus, Simon the zealot, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. These 12 Jesus sent out with the following instructions. Do not go among the Gentiles or enter into any town of the Samaritans. Go rather to the lost sheep of Israel. As you go, proclaim this message. The kingdom of heaven has come near. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons. Freely you have received, freely give. Do not get any gold or silver or copper to take with you in your belts. No bag for the journey, or extra shirt, or sandal, or staff, for the worker is worth his keep. Whatever town or village you enter, search there for some worthy person to stay at their house until you leave. As you enter the home, give it your greeting. If the home is deserving, let your peace rest on it. If not, let your peace return to you. If anyone will not welcome you or listen to your words, leave that home or town and shake the dust off your feet. Truly, I tell you, it will be more bearable for Sodom and Gomorrah on the day of judgment than for that town. I am sending you out like sheep among wolves. Therefore, be as shrewd as snakes and as innocent as doves. Be on your guard. You will be handed over to the local councils and be flogged in the synagogues. On my account, you will be brought before governors and kings as witnesses to them and to the Gentiles. But when they arrest you, do not worry about what to say or how to say it. At that time, you will be given what to say, for it will not be you speaking, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. Brother will betray brother to death, and father his child. Children will rebel against their parents and have them put to death. You will be hated by everyone because of me, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. When you are persecuted in one place, flee to another. Truly I tell you, you will not finish going through the towns of Israel before the Son of Man comes. The student is not above the teacher, nor the servant above his master. It is enough for a student to be like their teachers and servants like their masters. If the head of the house has been called Beelzebub, how much more the members of his household? The title of today's message is Go. And as you know, we've been focused on the weapons of war for a long time. And the problem is sometimes we can get stuck in the middle of a learning process and miss the fact that we actually have to do something. So like I said, we're shifting gears a bit, and we're going to look at the doing. We're going to start looking at what we've learned and how it needs to be applied. And I thought, what better way to do that than looking at what Jesus told his own disciples to do, right? What we just read took place in the middle of the disciples' training. It was right after Jesus had gone to his own hometown and pretty much been rejected. People weren't coming to him for healing. They were saying, we know you and how you grew up, so we don't have to listen to you. Yeah, you spoke really well in the synagogue, but we know who your brother and your sisters are. We know what your dad did. You're not going to be able to really tell me how to live my life. Right in the middle, right after that, Jesus says, guys, I got some things that I need you to go out and do. I'm going to give you a task. You're going to go out and you're going to do it and you're going to come back and we're going to review it. Okay? I mean, that's a really good way to teach, isn't it? I've taught you some stuff. I'm going to give you an objective. I'm going to have you do it. You've seen me do it. Now I'm going to have you do it. You're going to come back and we're going to look at it all and we're going to see how it goes. I'm going to give you some very specific direction, right? But I thought we could just hammer this all out in a day and be done with it when I first thought I was going to preach on this. And the reality is there's so much here you wouldn't put up with it if I tried to give it to you all in one day. I could be done by midnight, though, I promise. You wouldn't still be with me. You'd be lost off in something because I know you. I'm going to say something and you're going to get stuck on it. And so if I give you too much, you're going to miss it. I think that's the whole point behind the series, right? You're going to get stuck on something, even though it may not have been even a point I was trying to make. But you got hung up on a word, and you're going to hold on to that until you can talk to me about it. How do I know that happens? Well, first of all, guilty. Okay, I was gonna say because you guys have come to me and I've realized that's what happened, but yes, I've done it. Yes, I have absolutely done it. So I can't be mad at you for it either, can I? We're going to focus on one piece today. We're going to go slowly and we're going to walk through this together. The mic slipped down in my pocket and I couldn't reach the mute. Matthew 10, verse 1, and then 10 through 5 through 8. I'm going to jump over the names again. Jesus called his 12 disciples to him, gave them authority to drive out impure spirits, to heal every disease and sickness. These 12 Jesus sent out with the following instruction: do not go among the Gentiles or enter any town of the Samaritans. Go rather to the lost sheep of Israel. As you go, proclaim this message: the kingdom of heaven has come here, or come near. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosies, drive out demons. Freely you have received, freely give. He's giving them a task, right? But the first point that needs to be made, even before we get into what they were to do, is the fact that he gave them authority. That's the word you're going to hold on to today. Authority. When we are in the world, or even in our own circumstances, and we realize that we must be operating as Christians, right? Operating from the place of having the Holy Spirit in us, right? We have to recognize we don't have authority. We operate in authority. It's not our power. It's not our authorization. We are just authorized signatories to that power. We have access and authority to conduct business off of a very specific account, but that authority is governed by the expectations of the account holder. What do I mean? We're admins. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. That is a phrase that is relevant to today's world, right? Yep. An example of that. How many of you are key holders to this building? Right? You all have the right to use those keys. You can come and go as you please, right? The building has expectations. If you're using those for a very specific purpose that has something to do with this church, or you've been authorized to, you have the right to use it in that opportunity. But every one of you that's been given the key has also been told you can come anytime you want. But if you're here outside of the authorized reason that you have the key, just message me and let me know you're there, right? There's some expectation behind that authority, right? Chip, you were given a key so you could run your meeting on Monday night, and also ended up having a key so that you could be a benefit to the neighbor if their power breaker tripped and she had no access to the breaker box because it's in my office and their apartment was upstairs, right? And so he had the ability to come in and take care of that if necessary. But if he had to come, all I asked is that he let me know he was doing it, right? Those are the types of things I'm talking about. You're an admin, but there's responsibilities to go with it. How about another hopefully simple explanation? As a teenager, after getting your driver's license, Mom finally gives you permission to drive the car, her car, to the mall by yourself. Woohoo! Freedom! You have full access to the car. You have the key. You can technically choose the route that you take to the mall, how fast you drive, whether you're going to stop and pick up your friends, where you're going to park. Basically, once you have the keys, you're the owner of that vehicle. I mean, technically, possession is 9/10 of the law, right? How many of you know that's not how it works with mom's car, right? How about this? In business, you get a job to handle paying the invoices or doing payroll, right? You have access to the finances for the company. You can technically write a check and spend it any way you want, right? Technically you can. Except that technicality really is not true. We recognize that while technically these statements in and of themselves, we have the authority to write a check. We have the authority to drive the car. We got the keys, right? But that's not necessarily what we're allowed to do. And we should never claim that we then have that as the only authority or the authoritative person within that, right? Mom gave me the key doesn't mean I can take the car and go sell it. The company allows me to sign checks doesn't mean that I can go to the bank and remove other people from it and take ownership of the business. Does it? There's expectations that we handle things in the way that the owner of that authority would handle them. We're given the opportunity, the authority for a very specific task. The company gave you authority to pay from the company's accounts because if you didn't have the ability to do that, you'd fail at your job, right? First week payroll comes around and you have to write it off of your own checking account. Everybody's screwed, right? But if you can write it off the business account, and almost always, I don't know if you're aware of this, but almost always, you're not allowed to sign your own paycheck. Typically, even when you have that authority, you have to have somebody else sign yours, right? It's called accountability, right? Mom let you use the car to go to the mall doesn't mean you can take ownership of that car. Jesus gave the privilege of being allowed to operate in his power. Doesn't mean we have the right to claim it as ours. You know, it's interesting that that word that we translate authority, or in some translations power, it literally has the understanding in that word of privilege. It means that you have the lawful right to use it. It's not yours. You just are given permission to operate with it. But there's expectation with that, is there not? Jesus said, I'm giving you the right to cast out impure spirits and to heal every disease and sickness. Doesn't mean you now control all of that. It means you get to use that authority, that power, because he gave you permission to. And it's not to make you look like a good guy. It's so that Christ will be glorified. The reality is, I love to say, I have the right to, therefore, look at me, right? It's really easy to do, even though I wouldn't say it that way ever. I act like it. I hope not as much today as I did when I was in my earlier years, but I know it happens on occasion. I'm grateful for people that call me out on it, and we can talk about it. And so I would love to spin it and say it's my authority, because that would make me feel good, right? Codependents love to do that. The lawful right to operate in the authority of someone else is not just given in a vacuum. Mom has an opportunity to watch you and trust you. She starts with small things and sees you growing in those responsibilities, and she offers a chance to grow more. When she hands the keys, she also sets expectations to teach you how you should act in the future. The first time she lets you take the car to the mall, she probably tells you to drive straight there and come straight home. Oh, and by the way, don't take the highway because the traffic this time of day is really bad. Make sure you don't park in a handicap spot. I don't care that it's got a handicap placard. You're not handicapped. That's for people that need it. Right? When you receive the position to take care of payroll or to pay accounts receivable, your employers didn't give you that responsibility just because you walked in the door and said, I need a job. Guaranteed they ran a background check on you. Make sure you don't have a criminal, background, and make sure that they've done their due diligence. You're not going to steal from them. Guaranteed they ran a credit report on you to see if you're financially stable or not. Because if you don't know how to pay your own bills, they're not going to trust you to pay theirs. Right? And not only that, but once you do get the job, you look good on paper. For the first little while, they're not going to put you on the bank account so you can sign the checks. They're going to have you do all the work, and then you're going to take it to somebody that has the right to sign the checks, and that person's going to make you prove that what's on the check is right. And they're going to sign them. Our privilege is given, and then it can grow from there as we learn the expectations of that privilege. And the expectations of that position, and the expectations of the owner of that authority. Jesus tells us that our privilege will expand as we prove our trustworthiness. Now, I'm calling it privilege because, of course, I've already told you it's the expectation of doing it the way the owner would do it, right? It's not something you deserve, and it's not something you own, right? Here's an example. How many of you have a car payment? Good for you. That is awesome. That doesn't happen very often. The reality is, if you had a car payment, the bank technically owns the car. Therefore, if you did something stupid to wreck it, like taking it four-wheeling when it was a Toyota Camry, and you wrecked it, and you stopped making payments on it, the bank could actually hold you liable for it, right? But if you own it outright, you now have the authority to do anything you want with it, whether it's stupid or not. As long as you don't damage somebody else or their property, right? If you went four-wheeling in somebody's front yard, that's different than if you went to Sleeping Bear Dunes. As long as you got the right sticker on it and they don't catch you going out onto the dune, you'll pay for it later. It's costly for recovery on the dunes. But, as long as you check all the boxes, right? You can do stupid when it's yours. But Jesus gave them the privilege to do that. He gives us that privilege. Our privilege is given and then it can grow as we learn the expectations of what we should do. Jesus tells us our privilege will expand as we prove our trustworthiness. In Luke 12, he tells us we need to be faithful in the task assigned. And when he sees us being faithful, even in the night watch, we'll be given more privilege or authority. Luke 12:43 through 44. The end of this parable, Jesus says this, and I would encourage you, go look at Luke chapter 12 and the parable of the person that is left to watch. Luke 12:43 through 44. It is good for that servant whom the master finds doing so when he returns. Keeping watch, right? Truly I tell you, he will put him in charge of all his possessions. The servant was found trustworthy to not take possession, not to be arrogant, but to manage well. The servant recognizes he is just a servant who is being trusted with something that is very valuable and should be used well, but also not just kept safe, but to make sure it's beneficial to the owner, that it not only stays, but it prospers and increases in value, and it also increases the standing of the owner and his stature in the community, right? Even if the servant isn't seen anything more as just the houseboy. Jesus actually told another parable showing the exact same concept in Luke chapter 19, and I'm not going to read it to you because it would take way too much time. But I encourage you to go look at it. Jesus tells of an owner that gave over his wealth to three different men. One he gives 10, another 5, and another 1. Okay, so you're aware of the parable. He leaves for a period of time that they don't know about. Leaves them in charge of that. Goes away, and the reality is 2 of them do really well with what they were given. They double it, right? They use it to take care of business, and they increase what their master leaves them. They make their boss look good and make him more wealthy. It's not theirs. They don't get anything special from it, but they've watched the boss and they know how he handles business, and they're going to do it as good as him, or just at least strive to, and maybe even try to be better. They give it their best. They make sure it accomplishes what the boss would accomplish with it. But one of them, knowing exactly how the boss does business, decided, I am not going to screw this up. I'm going to keep it safe and make sure I don't lose it. I don't have any holes in my pockets. I'm not going to spend it on something that could cause me to lose money, you know. I see that grain commodities are going up, and so but I am not going to gamble it, you know. I definitely not going to do anything that could be risky in any way, shape, or form. So I'm going to bury it. The boss comes back. He asks everybody to give an account of what they did with what he gave them. It's not just, look, I doubled your money. He asks them to give an account of what they did with it. Open your books and show me how you handled things. One of them may have played it safe. Even though he doubled the money, he didn't handle it quite as well as one of them that took some risks, but hedged those risks in a safe way as well, and did well with what he did. And one of them failed, right? He held back, he kept it safe, he didn't lose it, but he didn't make the boss look good or look bad. He didn't take any risks at all. You recognize Jesus actually corrected this idea and said, that's not the way I expect things to be done. He said, an action like that, playing it safe, will actually cause the removal of the authority that he had originally given. But it was more than just removing the authority. He didn't just take that one mina and give it to the guy with 10. He also said that the failure to meet basic expectations had other consequences, didn't he? Mom gave you permission to take the car and go to the mall. And the second time you asked, and she handed you the keys because she trusted you the first time and you did well, and she had already set expectations for you. And you come home, park the car in the driveway, and as you rolled into the driveway, it died because it ran out of gas. Do you think Mom's going to let you drive the car next time you ask for it? Did she tell you to put gas in it? No, but you've watched Mom enough times to know that she never comes home with an empty gas tank, does she? Maybe it was because Dad would yell at her. Maybe it's because she knows that the gas station's 20 miles away and you got to have enough gas to get to the gas station. So if you don't have enough to get home from wherever you are without running out of gas and have enough to get back to the gas station, you stop on your way home, right? It's basic stuff. You've watched how Mom did it. So if you show up and you didn't do the basics along with the expectation, you're probably not going to have the right to use the car again, are you? Not until you can be trusted again. Until you've shown that you've learned the basics, learned the lesson of of being observant, right? The point for today is yes, you and I, as believers in Jesus Christ, have been given the power of the Holy Spirit. But it's not power, our power. It's the lawful right to use that the way the owner would use it and in the structure he has laid out for us at our level of trustworthiness. Like I said, sometimes I struggle with trying to take ownership of what was entrusted to me to manage. There was a period in time where Rhonda and I lived in our house, and the reality was we were just tenants. Grandma owned it. But we had lived there a really long time. And I took care of all the maintenance. We took care of the taxes. We took care of the utilities. We did everything as if we owned it, right? But I had to remember that I couldn't just do what I wanted to with the property. The driveway was a mess when we moved in. And I wanted to dig up the driveway and redo the driveway with new gravel. I couldn't just do that. I had to make sure that everybody in the family was okay with me doing that. With the understanding that I was doing something for the house, and if we ever moved and it was still in the family's ownership, not ours, that they didn't have to repay me for it, right? When we did the roof, I took the chimney off because we weren't using it. It was just one more place for the roof to leak, right? I couldn't just do that. I had to have a conversation with the family. Today, we own the house. I don't have to have permission anymore. But the difference is I needed to recognize that I was given responsibility to manage that house and do it well, but I didn't have the right to make major changes without the family's approval. When it comes to the authority to operate in the Spirit, to operate in Jesus' name, we have to recognize that He has given us an example to follow and that it is His authority to increase Him and to make Him, for lack of a better way of saying it, famous. It has nothing to do with me. You and I have been given the authority to drive out impure spirits and heal every disease and sickness, but He gave directive, and He's going to test us in it. Like when we took communion, we could do it in an unworthy manner, irreverently, or we could do it right. We're going to continue this discussion. Our one focus today was literally what is the privilege? What is the authority? Whose is it? And what do we do with it? Father, I praise you and thank you for the fact that you're going to do this work in me, and you're going to continue to allow me to share what you're doing in me so that we all can participate together. I also thank you, Lord, for the fact that we get to do this together. You sent them out 2 by 2 so that they could learn to trust each other. so that they could be held accountable and so that they wouldn't feel alone. And I thank you for the fact that you've given us this place. But I ask that as we go out, you continue to teach us and correct us. Lord, if we displease you, let us not quit because, well, it didn't come out the way we expected it to. Let us learn the lesson that is necessary so that we can gain the opportunity to be operating in your authority again.